And feel free to message us if you're on Zoom and ask any questions you might have. And the same goes for those of you that are here. Yeah, so essentially, one of our fellows just gave you access to this specific repository within ArchivesSpace, the one titled Workshop. And here's where we'll kind of play around and create some resources as well as some agent records. So you can go look through the handout, but essentially we're gonna go through some of these menu options, browse and create today to create a few resources and link them together, as well as just kind of view some of the kind of features that are in ArchivesSpace. Once we actually go into it, you'll see that it's in many ways like a very involved web form that you just kind of enter information into it, and it formats everything into a DAX-compliant EAD file. So if you don't know what that means, it's basically just helping you create a record of your archival collections that can be shared amongst different institutions. So yeah. So we're going to go where it says create, and we're going to click on resource. And then we're going to see this screen. And like I said, it's just like a web form. You can scroll all the way down and see there's like a lot of options. But right now, we're not going to get too into it, but we're just going to try to create like a basic item for our collection, or I guess hypothetical one. So as you can see, we have a number of asterisks indicating us which information is required to create a resource. I think you can enter whatever you like. There's the only place where I would put special attention to is if you scroll down where we have language, I believe, yeah, here at basic resource. If you create an item that is textual, it might require you to also provide a language, so just keep that in mind. But for now, I think you can essentially make whatever you think would belong in an archive. So let's say I have a letter from Abraham Lincoln, I would literally just like, letter from so on, and then I would assign that resource a unique identifier, and you guys know what that is, right? Like some sort of code, a series of numbers, alphanumerical series that would allow me to kind of uniquely and persistently point to this resource I'm creating. And normally that would involve using like a special code for like the repository that you work in, as well as like a series of numbers or letters that are unique to a system that you use to identify items. We have a little description. I recommend creating an item just to keep things simple. But obviously, if we were just making a resource, like starting out for a new collection that we're processing, we would select collection and so on. Over here at dates, again, we see how ArchivesSpace likes to sort of push us in the right direction in terms of how we format information. So we do have to label our dates. You can go with creation, record keeping, and so on. We're going to have also here the type of date. And again, to keep things simple, I would recommend selecting single date. And then here, again, ArchivesSpace, when we enter our date, is letting us know that he wants us to format it according to the system. So year, month, date, so on. So let's say I have a letter from 1861, right? And that is good enough. When I try to create a resource, it's going to recognize that number as a year. And then finally, it comes to the extent, which is also part of our required elements we have to include. Part whole, I would stick with whole for now. And then we have to, select numbers. So, for example, if we were describing, if we had, let's say, like video cassettes, we select like a number to that, so we don't have to describe everything item level or so on. We could be describing a folder full of different items. For now, we're just going to go with one, and then type. Yeah, this is where, again, if you were processing a collection, or if you had already processed a collection, you were entering the information for it here in ArchivesSpace, you would, I think, likely find whatever it is you're processing in this list. So if we have the paper, right, so like volumes, like the book, again, audiovisual materials, you would have reels, and so on. I'm going to say letters, right? And again, I'm just going to go back to my Lincoln letter to, let's say, Jefferson Davis, right? And so I'm going to ensure I select the language, and thankfully ArchivesSpace gives us like a drop-down list so that when it creates the file for the resource, like the EAD file, it's not just gonna it's gonna make sure that that language is recognizable by other repositories and like how it's encoded, and then we're gonna try to click save, and we're gonna see what happens. And if as you all create your resources, you did everything correctly, you should get like a happy identifier. Let's see. Oh, yes. There. You should get either this kind of view with like an indication that the resource was created, or at least like have this kind of menu here that displays the item. And so if you guys have success creating a resource, please indicate it to me, like give a thumbs up, all right? And then we can move on to see what other things we can make. I'm going to quickly demonstrate what happens if you make a resource, but you make a mistake. So like earlier, I didn't include an identifier. So let's say I have a title here. Let's say I have a, tape from the moon landing, but I don't include anything else, and I try to click save. ArchivesSpace will get mad at me and tell me, look, you're missing all this information, and you get like, this menu bar here, this little indicator. And so it's useful for, if you've made a mistake and enter information, like it can sort of prevent you from, saving something that's not going to be able to be, recognizable. Yeah. So moving on, we're going to try to create an agent now. And so the agents are going to be people, corporate bodies, families, and later on we'll also try to link an agent to our resource that we just created. So if you guys have all created a resource and you're happy with it, we're going to go again to this top menu section, and we're going to click create, and then we're going to go to agent, and we can select any one of these, but I think we should all just go with person from now on. So we're going to go there. And so we're going to see again another essentially elaborate web form. Those of you that might have experience working in archives will recognize, some of this information. For now, you can see that the two required fields are name order and the primary part of the name. So indirect and direct name order refer to sort of the naming conventions. So if I have, let's say my name is Alejandro Paz, if I'm going to enter my name indirectly, I would enter it as, Paz, Alejandro. So it would be like this. And directly would be the inverse. I would have my first name first and last name second. And as you can see, if I'm going to show you, if I include, let's say, a date. Let's say I was born in 1994, and I'm still alive. And then I click, save. See, source. Oh, okay, so we're just gonna say I'm gonna choose LCNAF, which is just referring to the name authority files from the Library of Congress, and rules. I'm gonna go with describing archives, content standard, which is what we use in archives. I'm gonna save. And as you can see, when it created the agent file, or the agent record that I just made, it automatically appends the date I added, right? So like here, I simply had to include the primary part of the name, and then ArchivesSpace will kind of format the name according to what rules you selected, like here, DAX and so on, source FLI and AF. So it's pretty useful, if you don't want to get into the details of like creating proper authority files or subject headings and so on. ArchivesSpace is a number of features that will kind of do that work for you. And it can be a crutch, obviously, if you're an inexperienced archivist, but if you're someone that just wants to quickly create a record for your archival materials, a lot of these automation can really save time. And so I'm sure all of you have by now created an agent record. And so now we're going to look at how we edit existing records. And we're going to do that by first finding our record using the browse feature. So I'm going to click browse and go to resources. And I think we can all head over there. And so I see that some of you have created records, Tom Murphy, professional correspondence, ABC. And so if I wanted to edit any one of these, you can click where it says edit right here. And you'll end up back to the screen that we were here earlier, and you can just go back and tweak the information that you had earlier inputted. And so, for example, let's say I'm here and I want to, just see what's kind of going on. I can see right here in this top little menu area. If this was a collection, we would see at the top level here, like the name of our collection. And if we had, let's say, series within our collection, we would see underneath this box the names of each series and so on, kind of creating like a hierarchical structure. And so that's sort of like a view that's afforded to us when we go to edit a file. And yeah, so for example, if there's a few options here. We're going to go into them later. Rapid data entry and add child. Just do like quickly. If I were to add child, suddenly there's, again, like I mentioned, like a hierarchical order where underneath, my letter or the resource I created, I get another, resource that I can sort of add and append to that. But anyways, I'm going to go to my original record, and I want to link it to this person I just created, this agent record. So I'm going to scroll down where my record is, and I'm going to head over to agent link, and I'm going to click add agent link, and then I'm going to get just another form here. And if you follow the handout, you'll see a kind of a view of what that looks like. And like, anytime I, let's say I'm looking for myself and I type A, I'm going to get a list of corporate bodies, persons, so on, that are already within my sort of ArchivesSpace system. So these are not being pulled from, the Library of Congress authority files or anything like that. These are just previous agent records that other users have created. So, see where I am. Alejandro Paz. Let's see, I select myself, and then I have to indicate a role. So I want to know if Alejandro is the creator or the subject of this resource. I'm going to go with creator. And if I wanted to add information, I could obviously select what kind of creator I am. And I think you guys should look around, play around with this. I mean, I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm just going to say that, if I correctly, Well, anyways, you can look through the relators that are available and select whatever I think fits the record you made. And then, once we have all of this here, we just go back to the top. As always, click Save. And now our record is updated with a link to that agent file we just made. And so now moving on, let's say we wanted to create a record that was subordinate to the one we just made. So here I have my Lincoln letter to Jefferson Davis. I would make sure that I'm selecting it. So you see it's a little blue box here that tells me that's where I am. And I could click right here where it says rapid data entry, and I would be able to essentially be able to kind of quickly add more records to this sort of hierarchy that we're building, and these records will sort of kind of fit underneath that in like a view similar to a finding aid inventory, where you see like the list of everything that belongs to a collection. And here I'm gonna, for one thing, I'm gonna indicate the level of description, which I'm gonna go with an item, since I'm literally adding something subordinate to another item. So I'm not gonna say that a collection is subordinate to an item. I have to include the title and the date as well. So let's say I have like this crap piece of paper. Date type, again, single, just to keep it simple. And I'm just gonna give the date. And with item, title, and date, you're usually able to create a subordinate record using this view, rapid data entry. And there's a number of useful features, like if I wanted to add multiple items at once, I could make sure you get a longer list here, and then I could quickly sort of create 4 quick records that I can then maybe edit with more detail later on, and it just saves time. And if I want to know that this record I'm adding is going to actually work, I can click on validate rows here at the bottom, and it's going to let me know whether this works or not. It says all rows are valid, and whether or not it validates this record you're making might depend on what type of record you're including. So when we look to the right, obviously I can include far more information. And if you were trying to create a collection this way, you would have more sort of you have more things to fill out before ArchivesSpace would allow you to create that. So I'm going to click Save. Yeah. And so again, like, see here now we have finally like a little burgeoning a set of items. And then the final thing we're going to go through, well, I guess not the final thing, but it's something that I have to show you, and like I can only show you because ArchivesSpace is a number of security features that limit what you have access to. So if I go back to this rapid data entry, and let's say I had a series of photographs, and I wanted to add 4 item level descriptions to these photographs, or more, and I didn't want to spend too much time fussing around with indicating the level of description, or maybe the more information about the photographs, like their dates and so on. I could use this feature, which is the templates. So here I could apply this template, and you can see that I automatically get like a set of information. And so if I had, if I wanted to add, 20 records at once, I could use, again, I could use this feature to really quickly make my life easier and not have to sit there like a, like a sweatshop worker, just like entering the same information over and over and over again. And unfortunately, you guys can't use this because you have a level of access that is not, you don't have the highest level of access. And if you did, if you were managing a repository and you gave everyone, the ability to create templates or the ability to create repositories, records, and all that, you would, run the risk of having your ArchivesSpace, sort of server or, I guess, working tool. You might have run the risk of getting really disorganized. So if you're depending on volunteers to help upload information on ArchivesSpace, you definitely wouldn't want to give them access to all of these features, which is one of the reasons why you guys can't do this on your own. And again, if you wanted to create your own template, you could, in the same screen, just include a set of information, and then you click here at Save as Template, and then ArchivesSpace would save it for you for future use. And so that's another feature. And so I'm sure a lot of you guys by now probably want to know more about what ArchivesSpace can do and what other what uses there are to it. So I was thinking we should look at some of these examples that we have in the ArchivesSpace sites, and there are a few listed. So I'm gonna go to the handout. I'm gonna show you guys what other institutions have done. So ArchivesSpace, as you might guess, has a public end and not not a private end, but like an end that the archivists or the librarians might use. And so here is the public view for a repository within the ArchivesSpace, I guess, profile of USC libraries. So if I look at my URL, I see that I'm not just in the USC ArchivesSpace, but I'm specifically in repository 7. And so here I'm the HTML for this version of ArchivesSpace has been edited so that I get like the color scheme, I get like some of these fun features here which are not in like the base template of ArchivesSpace. And you can search or browse. So if I wanted to look through everything that everything that the USC archives have, you could search, let's say, architecture. And then we see a list of items, collections, and so on with, with the ability to browse by some of the different pieces of information and access points that we've created with our collections. So I could, click on, let's say I want to look at correspondence. I can see both collections and, in this case, let's see. Well, in this case, it's just collections, but you can really browse and search thanks to ArchivesSpace and have all the information that the ArchivesSpace archivists have inputted sort of become part of the view feature. So if you look at an inventory, again, we see, well, this one isn't very hierarchical, but let me see if I can find another collection. We have an inventory view which kind of shows us like the arrangement of the collections, and which you can totally describe using ArchivesSpace. So we see, start out with the information relative pertaining to the collection, and go down by series, subseries, file, and so on. ArchivesSpace allows you to literally just like navigate to every single item, series, and collection. And oftentimes, the information here would just be the same information that you would find if you were looking at information that pertains to the whole collection. But oftentimes, if you're looking through something that is described at the item level, you can make it very easy for users to get all of that information in like a very user-friendly interface. And so this is for USC libraries. But if you're wondering, what ArchivesSpace might look like, the places we have the University of Amsterdam, which gives us access to, again, their collections to ArchivesSpace. And as you can see, they have everything formatted a bit differently. So, it's not just that things are moved around, but for example, at this top menu, we have we're being sort of pushed to browse by only by collections and subjects and names, whereas at USC libraries, there's a few unique features that are a little bit different. Like we don't have, for example, here they included help that is unique to this institution's kind of ArchivesSpace profile. So there's a whole community of developers that work with ArchivesSpace to make it work with a specific institution so that it fits their needs. And so again, it's very there's a lot of variety of what you can do with it. And if you're wondering, if you just want to have a few collections uploaded onto ArchivesSpace, and you don't want to spend all this time and money making everything look pretty, what does ArchivesSpace look like at its most basic level? I'm going to show you the ArchivesSpace page for a repository in India, and I think it'll be interesting just to see what that looks like when. Yeah, so here, as you can see, we're just getting like the bare bones. It's perfectly fine, totally usable. And yeah, if I remember correctly, this is this is from like a biological center in a university in South Asia, and works perfectly fine. So even places that don't have a lot of resources can make great use of ArchivesSpace. So again, everything is pretty similar. So I don't know, do you guys have any questions or anything in particular that stands out? Do you want to play around?
Is there the kind of plugins you could put into ArchivesSpace?
Yeah, so if you look at the handout, where it says, towards the end of the handout where it says resources, you can go to the ArchivesSpace developers wiki, and there you'll find a lot of information regarding what you can do with ArchivesSpace, how you can edit it and kind of modify it. That's what you meant by plugins, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I see how the LCNAF import work to look in, but curious if there are other kinds you can put in.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I would recommend looking into that. Yeah. Yeah, if you guys, would any of you be interested in maybe using ArchivesSpace here at Simmons in the future? Just if you're ever interested in that, definitely let us know at the COCIS Tech Lab, and we can set you up again with the account, and you can go in there and actually really sink your teeth in. If you wanted to do a project for one of your archives classes or really digital libraries, whatever it is. You can definitely, wouldn't take you that long to create an actual collection here and describe it. And again, so it's a possibility. All right, so I think I'm just gonna let the hour roll, and you guys can stick around if you want. But thanks for coming by, and we appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed getting to see sort of what this tool looks like. So it will no longer be this kind of perplexing thing that you see coming up again and again in resumes and job descriptions, and you're like, what is ArchivesSpace? How do I use it? And yeah, good luck with your classes this semester.